The sun was already sliding down behind the mesas when Ethan Cole noticed something wrong with the fence line. At first, he thought it was just the way the light bent at dusk, turning shadows into shapes that didn't quite belong to the land. The desert did that, played tricks on the eyes when the heat of the day finally loosened its grip. He squinted, one hand resting on the top rail of the corral, dust clinging to his boots and the cuffs of his jeans. The cattle had settled, lowing softly, their bulk dark against the reddening sky. Then the shape moved. Ethan straightened slowly. His hand dropped to his side, fingers flexing out of habit. He didn't reach for the rifle leaning against the fence post, not yet. Predators usually announced themselves in subtler ways. A nervous cow, a sudden scatter of birds. This was different. Just beyond the fence, near the scrub where mesquite clawed at the hard earth, stood a child. She was so still she might have been carved there, a thin silhouette cut from shadow and dust. The fading light caught the curve of her cheek and the dark spill of her hair, tangled and loose down her back. She couldn't have been more than 8 or 9. Bare feet. A dress that had once been blue, now faded to the color of the sky just before night. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. "Hey," he called, keeping his voice low, steady. The desert carried sound easily, and he didn't want to startle her. "You lost." She didn't answer. Didn't move. Her eyes stayed on him, large, dark, unreadable. He took a step closer to the fence, boots crunching softly on gravel. "You shouldn't be out here alone. Sun's going down." Still nothing. The wind stirred, warm and dry, lifting dust around her ankles. Only then did he notice what she held in her hands, a small pouch, worn leather tied with a fraying cord. She clutched it to her chest like it was the only thing tethering her to the world. Apache, the thought came unbidden. He'd grown up near this land. Learned early the difference between rumor and reality, between fear and respect. He'd known Apache families once, before his father died, before the ranch became his burden to carry alone. Time had thinned those connections, but the recognition stayed, quiet and certain. Ethan swallowed. "I ain't gonna hurt you," he said. "You hungry?" That did something. Her grip tightened on the pouch, knuckles whitening. Her gaze flicked past him, to the house, squat and weathered, smoke trailing thin from the chimney. Then back to his face. She took one cautious step forward. The fence was old but sturdy, rough wood sun-bleached and splintered. Ethan reached out and pushed the gate open, slow enough that the hinges barely creaked. "Come on," he said gently. "You can come in." She hesitated at the threshold, eyes darting, measuring. Like a young deer deciding whether to bolt. Ethan forced himself to stay still. Patience mattered more than words. Finally, she crossed. Up close, she was smaller than he'd thought. Too thin, shoulders sharp beneath the faded fabric. Dirt smudged her calves, and a long scratch marred one knee, scabbed over but angry looking. She smelled of dust and sun and sweat, of days spent moving without rest. He crouched to her level, ignoring the protest in his bad knee. "What's your name?" Silence. "That's all right," he murmured. "You don't gotta tell me." She studied him with the seriousness of someone far older than her years. Then, slowly, she held out the pouch. Ethan blinked. "For me." She nodded once. He accepted it carefully, half expecting her to snatch it back. The leather was cracked from use, soft with age. Inside, he found a smooth river stone, pale and cool, and a single feather, brown and white, its tip worn. "Thank you," he said. Meaning it. Her shoulders relaxed just a fraction. The moment felt fragile, like it might shatter if he moved wrong. Ethan rose slowly and gestured toward the house. "I've got stew on. Nothin' fancy, but it'll fill you up." Hunger won the argument fear was still making. She followed him inside. The house smelled of beans, beef, and wood smoke. It wasn't much, one main room, a small kitchen corner, a table scarred by years of use. The walls bore the quiet marks of a solitary life, a single coat hanging by the door, a pair of boots lined neatly beneath the bench, a faded photograph on the mantel of a man and woman standing stiffly together, faces serious. Ethan ladled stew into a bowl and set it on the table, then hesitated. "It's hot," he said. "Careful." She climbed onto the chair without help, movements economical, as if she'd learned long ago not to waste energy. She ate slowly at first, eyes flicking up at him between bites. After a few spoonfuls, the restraint broke. She ate like someone who had been hungry for too long, spoon clinking softly against the bowl. Ethan busied himself with nothing, giving her space. He poured water into a tin cup and slid it toward her. She drank deeply, wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, then froze, as if realizing too late she'd forgotten to be cautious. "It's all right," he said. "You're safe here." The word safe seemed to land somewhere deep. Her shoulders sagged, and for the first time since he'd seen her, she looked her age. Exhaustion etched itself into her face, heavy and sudden. When the bowl was empty, she pushed it away and yawned, trying and failing to stifle it. Her eyes grew glassy, blinking slow. "You can sleep," Ethan said. "I've got a spare bed." He led her down the short hallway to the small room he'd once intended for guests who never came. The bed was narrow but clean, a quilt folded neatly at the foot. He hesitated again, then pulled it up for her. She crawled onto the mattress without ceremony, curled onto her side, clutching the pouch again as if she'd forgotten it wasn't in her hands anymore. Ethan retrieved it from the table and placed it gently beside her pillow. "Good night," he said. Her eyes fluttered closed almost instantly. Ethan stood there a long moment, listening to the slow, even rhythm of her breathing. Something heavy settled in his chest, not fear, not quite worry. Responsibility, maybe. Or the ache of knowing that whatever had driven her here wasn't simple, and wouldn't be easily undone. He extinguished the lamp and returned to the main room, sinking into the chair by the fire. Outside, the desert cooled, stars beginning to prick the sky. Somewhere far off, a coyote yipped. Ethan didn't sleep much that night. He sat with his coffee gone cold, staring into the embers, mind turning over questions without answers. Who was she? How far had she walked? Who would come looking for her, and how soon? Just before dawn, he rose quietly and checked on her again. She hadn't moved, still curled tight, face peaceful in sleep. He let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. The sun crept up slow and red, painting the land in fire and promise. Whatever the day brought, Ethan knew one thing for certain. He hadn't just taken in a stray child. He'd stepped into a story already in motion, and there would be no easy way out.